Opportunity may present itself from the most unexpected of places. As folly begets yet more folly. And even if it results in a disaster of unknown proportions, the cycle of stupidity created by these creatures could appear like a feast to the crazed eye.
How's it going, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and ladies and gents, boys and girls, Duggars and Diggers. Today we are going to be playing Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and we are going to be fighting Bob, aka Blood Orange Bishaten, whatever. I like Bishaten, it's kind of cool. But Bishaten was an incredibly interesting monster in the original game. He had a whole variety of ways for him to actually attack and move around. His mobility was excellent. His attacks was incredibly varied. He was a full day. You know what I mean? It was a lot. Now in Sunbreak, he himself got a subspecies. Now for the most part, the subspecies, I'll admit right off the top, let's get out the way. The subspecies himself isn't as crazy as what the base monster is himself. However, one thing that is to be said though is that he packs more true power. And by that I mean there's more ways for he himself to actually do greater amounts of damage to the player, versus whereas before my man needed to use a bit of guile. Not, I wouldn't call it espionage, but a little, he had to be tricky. He had to really go down with what he's about, being a tricky little monkey to get the stuff, whereas Bob, he's a lot more upfront with it. Now first and foremost, let's talk about his big claim to fame. He doesn't eat the fruits anymore. He doesn't throw fruits around. He doesn't do that. What he does instead is he actually has pine cones. These pine cones, he can imbue them with fire, because he can breathe fire now. He legitimately is a fire breather now. He will throw these pine cones, he'll throw chips, like broken particles, fragments if you will, of these pine cones out, scatter them across the ground, and then breathe fire on them, cause them to explode. So off the rip, he isn't himself a blast monster, even though all the weapons you get from him are going to be blast. So that's one thing to look into. But these pine cones, he can use them in a multitude of ways, and that's what the meat and potatoes of the video is going to be about. But before we get into that particular bit, let's talk briefly on his weaknesses, so that way we can get to the stuff that everyone's here to see. So his main weakness in this game is water. After water is going to be thunder, but at this point, the best part of this, as far as Monster Hunter goes, is in the early game, they always lead you with the monster who can be susceptible to basically anything. Then shortly afterwards, they start bringing in the elemental monsters. Now the elemental monsters, they're going to be weak to usually the monster you fought previously. So in this case, if you fought Hermitar, like I have right here, and I'm wearing Hermitar gear using a Hermitar gun lance, I have water to deal extra elemental damage to him. So there you go, kind of saucy, kind of nice. So moving back to what we were talking about, he can use these pine cones in a variety of ways. Let's talk about a lot of particular attacks. He has the main attack that I talked about, where he'll break the pine cones into fragments, throw them on the ground, and curl himself up and spin like a spirally, flamey kind of thing, causing all the fragments to explode, and he himself having like a flaming fire attack that you have to block as well. It's his biggest, most grandiose attack, and truth be told, it doesn't really hit that hard, since it has two stages to the attack itself. If you block the actual explosions of the fragments and then you get hit with the spin, it's not that bad. If you get hit with the explosion, you don't get hit the spin, so it's still not that bad. If anything, it's mainly there to cover a lot of ground, forcing you to completely change everything you were doing up until that point to evade it completely. Outside of this big oofy attack, he has the ability to stand on his hind tail, and from his hind tail he'll do a multitude of things. He'll take two pine cones out and he'll throw one, and it'll spiral and spin in a circle around you. He'll take the other one and do the same thing. He can do both at the same time. He even has the ability to take one in each hand, or one in one hand, slam down on the ground with one, causing a plume of explosions once he slams it on the ground, and he'll grab another one out of his other hand, or with his other hand, and slam it down in a different direction. So he'll pound one with one and then one with the other. He has one where he pounds both at the same time. The coolest thing about that particular attack though, it is pretty bad on his part. By that I mean when he slams both at the same time, it leaves this huge column in between that there's nothing in there. So you can actually sit in that column and take absolutely no damage. Now if you get really close to him when he does this, you still get hit with the initial hitbox of him slamming, but outside of that, it's basically a free hit zone where you don't get hit at all. Pretty freaking fun if you ask me. So I like standing in between there when he does it because it saves you more often than not. Outside of those particular attacks, he does have one where he puts it in his tail and then he'll slam down with it. And speaking of his tail, he uses his tail a lot to do a lot of his slam attacks. Now, if you guys are coming from Monster Hunter World and you fought Palomalu, where he'll... Is it Palomalu? I don't know. Paul. You know what I'm talking about. If you guys fought Paul, the monster who blows himself up like a balloon, he has the tendency to slam his tail down multiple times, like I'm sure you guys have seen already. Bishaten, Bob if you will, he does the same thing. So be ready to block a lot of tail slams because he likes to do it a lot. It can get a little, not necessarily egregious, but it can get kind of annoying because he does it quite often outside of using the pine cones to do a lot of slamming and whatnot. But mostly all those attacks aside, that's basically everything he will do. He'll do a couple of different variations to the can't talk. He'll do basically a few other variations to the shenanigans that I talked about previously with the pine cones and such. He will sometimes use his flame breath like raw, or sometimes he'll slam down with pine cones and then use his flame breath. The flame breath is pretty average. I mean, you almost will never get hit by this thing, so it's okay to like not trip about it at all. He does have a lot of instances where he likes to roar, and whenever he does roar, and it's not like a true roar, he just like gets mad or whatever. It's like he'll roar real quick, or he'll run, or he'll just kind of roar and just like say, yeah, I'm roaring or whatever. He does this a lot, allowing you yourself to actually utilize the time that he just sits there doing nothing for you to like put him on his ass. So he gives you lots of openings, a lot more openings that normal in my opinion Bishaten did before, and because of it, he's a lot easier to combat once you get the strings down. Outside of that, that's basically all there really is to Bishaten, well, Bob if you will. So for the most part, just understand that when you go to fight him, it's not going to be a grandiose adventure, but he does have a lot of things that will cause you to pause. He hits pretty hard for the level in which you go to fight him at, and his pinecone mix-ups can get kind of outrageous, but just remember to pack like flash bombs and such, so that way he gets knocked off his tail a lot. He doesn't have a particular instance where the original one had, where if you do stun him off of his tail or whatever, he will like drop the fruit everywhere. That isn't the thing that he will do. However, if you do stun him or you do knock him from his tail, he is laying on the ground for quite some time. So just remember to pack some flash bombs, that way you can actually run away, well not run away, but utilize that, so that way you could either heal up if you have to, run away if you need to, or add on more damage. But outside of that, that's Bob in a nutshell. Let's take a look at his gear, because it's actually pretty good. So when looking at Bob's armor, it actually has quite a few skills. One thing I want you guys to note is that there is a lot of skills, and there's a lot of variety to these skills, and a lot of different sets can be made from this. So starting at the top, we look at Blast Attack 3. Blast Attack 3 is here simply because its weapons all give blast, minus for the bow, the bow and the light bow gun. I think it didn't have a heavy bow gun, but the bow and light bow gun, of course. So it has latent power, quick sheath, fire resistance, recovery speed 3, handicraft, spread up, and protective polish. Now I can sit here and talk to you guys about all these skills and how each of these skills can pertain to a different weapon type. Just understand that for every weapon it actually has, as far as Blade Master goes, which is sword and shield, hammer, switch axe. I think it's the only 3 it has. Sword and shield, hammer, and switch axe. You can make a set using all of this. The grand general to that is handicraft and quick sheath. These are quick sheath, handicraft, and blast attack. These are all skills that's very useful when utilizing a Blade Master set like this. But there's also spread up, also protective polish. But there's also spread up for those of us who's actually using bow and the bow gunner type of thing. So this armor set is quite varied in its abilities. Granted, it's not grandiose because it's still early level on monster, but the armor itself is really good. A lot of solid skills in here. You can mix and match whatever you want. You can pick and choose, use it as a mixer, or use it raw. I like using raw because it's actually a lot of fun to use in and of itself, because latent power is really nice, quick sheath is really nice, handicraft and protective polish, these are all really nice things, especially when since you do have handicraft, a lot of its Blade Master weapons can be upgraded into white sharpness. So it's also always really nice to have the ability to have white sharpness on your weapons, and with protective polish it allows you to actually keep your white sharpness even longer for a free actually for a set period of time, so that way you can use the weapon as often as you like up until that time is passed, and then after that will your weapon start to lose sharpness, pretending and maintaining that white sharpness up until then. So it's godlike. I like the set in and of itself by itself. It's actually a really good set, and I recommend as many people make the set, if not immediately, at least make a couple of sets, or excuse me, a couple of pieces, so that way you can get some protective polish and some handicraft for future mix sets. Its weapons, like I said before, pretty solid. They do have white sharpness if you use handicraft enough. I think 2 points can get you white on basically anything, and again, protective polish maintains that white no matter how small it is, so long as the protective polish skill is actually activated. So to wrap this up, let's make it quick and breezy here. Bob is a very interesting monster because he himself has a lot of mobility. He's not a grandiose monster, doesn't have all these crazy things that make him very tough to fight, but has a lot of weird things, a lot of mobility tricks, things that allow you to have a bit of an issue when you do fight him at first, but as the fight progresses, you'll be like, okay, I understand this, I can combat this, this is the counter to this is how you adapt to that, so on and so forth. So he's not a crazy monster. I would recommend coming here with some water weapons. If you just fought Daimon Hermitar, you can use those to your advantage to actually do even more elemental damage to him. I mean, I actually double backed and fought him without water, and it took me 19 minutes as opposed to like 14 minutes. Granted, these were me using weapons I've never really used before. This is my first time using gun lance in Sunbreak, so it took a little longer than I expected to, but nevertheless, the point is, use the elemental weaknesses the monster has, so that way you can do even more damage to him. Use the flash bomb, so that way you can capitalize on the fact that he likes to stand on his tail, and when he is flash when standing on his tail, it's almost akin to that of a monster being flash bomb when falling out of the sky, like a flying wyvern or something like that. He's laying on the ground for a good long while. After that though, he's not too crazy. He's not a terrible fight. Yeah, he has a lot of weird pine cone mix-ups where he can throw the pine cones that will spin around you, so you're thinking, okay, I gotta worry about this one. Oh wait, there's another one, I gotta worry about that one. Oh wait, he threw them all on the ground. He's slamming them down like slam dunking basketballs or whatever. Just understand that he isn't too wild. There's always a nice sweet spot, and he has large tails to figure out, okay, he's gonna do this or he's gonna do that. Like, he will almost never throw down the pine cones and you yourself cannot get out of the way of it. So just understand that there's an answer for every question he gives you, you know what I mean? Each question being any particular crazy attack that he does with the pine cones. Even though if you let him, he probably will steamroll you. Just give yourself a little bit of space and understand that everything he does and truly and earnestly have a counter. Outside of that, as far as weapons go, use whatever weapon you're comfortable with. I would recommend, if I had to give a full recommendation, I'd recommend anything that has the ability to block, like a lance, a gun lance, a sword and shield. Hammer gets a pass, charge blade. Heck, gunning should make this guy, I wouldn't say completely trivial, because he does play a pretty decent medium to long range game, but I like to think there's a good answer to be made for someone who uses the gun or something like that. Anyone who uses like dual blades or whatever, just understand, if you're adept with your dual blades, know that you're going to be using your mobility to your advantage over his increased mobility, because he himself likes to play a game where he can get in close, he can play far back. That's kind of his bag, you know what I mean? So again, Bob in a nutshell, that's about it. Thank you so much everyone for watching the video. I greatly appreciate it. First, let me get this out the way now that we're done with the actual video. Guys, thank you so much. Like, I genuinely mean that. When I came back and made the Daimon Hermitar video, and being my first Dex video in like forever, you guys gave me like, oh my god, Dak is back. Yo, it felt good. It really felt good. Like, you don't understand, I've been doing this for 10 years now. 10 years I've been doing this exact same thing, and I did take a bit of a break, and it was a bit of a bum for a lot of people, but to know that a lot of people still care, they're still holding me down after all these years, even after I took all these breaks and had all these things going on, whether it be personal or just interpersonal things or whatever, like mental and all that stuff, that you guys are still like, yo, I was glad to see that you are still making content, and I greatly appreciate the things you're doing for the community and for the game that I play right here. It's things like that, guys. It's genuinely things like that, actually hearing it from people, that make me want to continue doing what I'm doing to this day. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you guys for helping me think that, like, I'm not just wasting my time here, I'm actually doing something with purpose. But with that being said, everyone, it's been your boy. Thank you again so much. We will continue making these videos, of course. They're going to come out a tad slower because I'm a lot more busier than I was before, but I'm going to try to at least get you guys at least one video every single day. It's just one monster, you know, every single day. Only cases where this is not the case is when, like, they spread the monsters out so far in between that it's actually taking me like a full day in and of itself to get to the monster itself, because I can't play the game as often as I like anymore, and if I'm actually doing collaborative videos. That's foreshadowing, by the way. But anyway, guys, thanks so much. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the day, your day. I'll see you all on the next one. And with that being said, it's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and may the desire sense of forever be in your favor.